Welcome back to our Chess Masters of the Past series, and today we get to focus on a Canadian player. We're going back to some Canadian patriotism with Kevin Spraggett. So Kevin was the fourth chess grandmaster in Canada's history. He did really well in the 1980s, even playing in the candidates matches and beating such people as Jan Timman, as we'll see today. That's probably one of Canada's biggest accomplishments on the chess scene, up to these days when Eric Hansen is also doing well. So Kevin had this game with Jan Timman in 1985, and we'll see how the piece value didn't really correspond with the position. Because the hard thing in chess is to figure out when is a piece bigger than three pawns? When are three pawns bigger than a piece? I wish there was a magic formula you could just say that 3 plus 3 equals 6, but it doesn't work like that. Unfortunately, chess is more complicated, as we'll see in this game today. A few other things. So I just got back from France. I'm very happy to get my second IM norm in the Capella Grand tournament, and I'll be playing a few more tourneys in the next half year while bringing you these videos. So without further ado, let's talk about Kevin Spraggett versus Jan Timman. Kevin was playing black, and he played something called the kangaroo defense. So for anyone who likes animals, try out e6. Okay, with e6, the whole idea is, of course, we're going to play a Nimzo-Indian kind of position where instead of playing, let's say, knight f6, knight c3, bishop b4, we're just going to go for the kangaroo with bishop b4 check. So the kangaroo jumps out and punches at white right away. The whole idea is that, sometimes we may not need the knight on f6 right away. Sometimes we may need the pawn here instead. Sometimes the queen is better off here. Sometimes even the knight will come here. You're not sure yet. So we figure out the situation with the bishop first. After bishop check, bishop to d2 blocks the check and leads to queen e7. So what's going on here? White is saying, would you like to support my center and help me get my knight out and get rid of your annoying bishop? And black is saying, sure, but we only trade on our terms. If you'd like to trade, go ahead, be my guest, and then I will pillage the whole queen side of your pawns. Okay, so then after e4, white says, whoa, I got the center. The whole point of having the Nimzo Indian knight is you control the center. But you forgot your knight, Kevin. And Kevin says, who needs knights anyways? I'll take him out later. Let's strike back at the center. To be honest, I don't think the opening was really great for black. What he made out of it later was quite something. After d5, e5 is a good move because if we take everything, you can't. It turns out there is a pin, which is another reason why the queen likes to be on e7. And if you take on b4, like we said already, this is not exactly great for white. If they take this way, this is not great either. Okay, and if they try to defend, I guess one of the ideas could be pawn takes, bishop takes, and knight of 6, and then the bishop is kind of iffy, and I think black is getting a decent position. Black is managing quite well here. Okay, so in the actual game, we had d5 striking at the center. White said, no, you don't get to strike at my center. I'm going to build up a whole fortress of pawns around d4, e5, c5. And black says, what about the base of your pawn chain? Can I strike at it, please? And how will you defend it? Okay, knight f3 is probably the simplest way. Okay, usually we don't want knights blocking our center pawns like the c pawn because the c pawn should be striking at the center. So nowadays, maybe something like c5 could be played, maybe. Or on the other hand, you could try for a light square blockade. You could play something like maybe bishop d7, dxc, and bishop c6, knight d7 with this sort of play and longside castle. It's a bit slow, but hey, white also wasted a bunch of moves. So in the actual game, Kevin went right for the center with the knight. And after knight f3, we trade. The queen supports the pawn, and we go for c4. Now, what's the normal move here? What would you do as white, let's say? Yeah, somebody just takes your pawn, Most people would take it back, right? Bishop takes c4. And I guess what Kevin was going for here is this idea of light square play. This pawn tends to be backward, okay? And if we can get all our pieces out in such a manner like b6, bishop b7, let's say castle short, which is probably not very scary, and castle long. There's a lot of pressure on d4. There can be a blockade on the light squares. Also, there is a lot of pressure from this side and f6 coming up. So this looks very similar to Queen's Gambit accepted positions, actually. This is very close to those positions, which may be okay for black, okay, because white is so busy defending this guy that they can't really focus on this king. Playing d5 with the queen there, probably not recommended. Probably knight a5, and then this pawn tends to fall. All right, so it's not so easy to play with the center. Like Tarash used to say, it's hard to play against the center, but once you have the center, life becomes a nightmare because you always have to defend it, as white is finding out here. Okay, so for that reason, in the actual game, white says, no, 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 I don't want the pawn. I want your d5 square. I want a breakthrough. Since you're breaking some rules, you're not using your c pawn, I'm going to break through your center now, destroy everything. Okay, knight a6, d5. And if we take the normal way, I think this is problematic. I mean, this is a problem. Okay, after let's say queen e6, uh-oh. And if you try to defend it, okay, then I think white got what they wanted. The knight is weird, like what is it doing here? Don't ask me. After just natural play, rook d1, rook e1, I think e6 is coming. This is a disaster. Okay, yes, bishop e6 is interesting, but I still don't like black's position so much with the knight on h6. For that reason, black looked at this and Kevin said, do I have to? Do I have to take? I don't want to take. I don't want to play here. It's a little iffy on the side, yeah? Knights on the rim are very grim. d6 is going to be a nightmare, quite literally, on a5. And so if you don't like this nightmare, you give up your knight. And this is where the sacrifice begins. It's not a real sacrifice because we got the 3 pawns for the piece at the end, but the imbalance is really weird, okay? And you could say it's a weird type of trade where on one side of the coin, white can say, ooh, I got a nice piece and we're still in the middle game, so I can checkmate you with it, and we're far from the end game. And then on the other side of the coin, Kevin can say, how's your space situation? Where is your space? I don't quite see this space. Show me this space. I don't see it anywhere. And how is your bishop doing? How is your piece activity? You're so proud of your piece. Show me what it does. Oh, what, it's stuck looking at my pawns, at this barricade, at this diamond of doom that's coming up. And so here comes the diamond of doom. After black sets up everything on the light squares, it turns out queen e2 is already a mistake. Okay, the diamond is coming no matter what, but the question is, how does white play against it? It turns out the simplest way for Jan was just castling. And Jan's a good player, by the way, yeah? Fantastic player, maybe number 3, number 4 in the world at around that time, okay? So he beat Karpov and all those guys. But in this game, didn't feel like he was doing so well. If he castled, the difference is now rook comes to help the knight, not the queen, okay? And the queen tends to get pinned. So it's not going to do any damage on e2. It's just going to get in the way. So after queen e2, that's a waste of time. And the rook doesn't really do much on d1 when d5 is covered. Yeah, this rook does nothing. The queen does nothing. So we just ruined 2 pieces, if not 3. Okay, and wasted a bunch of time in the process. So now the sacrifice becomes really good. And again, I shouldn't call it sacrifice, more like a trade. Okay, after c6, you start seeing the diamond coming. Okay, the knight is not sure what he's doing here. He decides he wants to trade for the bishop, who's doing such a great job helping the pawns. After castling and knight d4, here comes the cavalry. Okay, the black rooks help the light square blockade, so that Now we're looking at bishop g4, we're looking to invade, we're looking for our pawns marching up the board with c5 and d4. So next move, if you do like nothing, right? Let's say you do this, boom, I attack your queen. If you take, rook goes away, uh-oh. Okay, I'm very tempted to play c5. We have to watch out for tactics a little bit, but very soon c5 and d4 will haunt white. Okay. I'm even looking at stuff like c5, knight takes, rook e5 is interesting. So a lot of complications already. And even if we play like rook d8, what do you do about the pawns? Not so simple. For that reason, in the actual game, white just traded out the bishop. Okay, here's how scary this position is. If you try taking a free pawn, it's already too late for you. White is lost. Okay, the diamond was too much to handle because of queen b7 attacking everything, and then b4 attacking the knight, bishop g4 just winning the whole house. Okay, white's pieces can't set up any blockade. They just can't be stable here. They're very fragile. They're breaking like wine glass. Okay? And the problem for white is there are no outposts, no anchors, no pawns to help out the knights. If let's say you could get a knight over here and a pawn on e3, that's a different story. Okay? And this pawn has to be gone, then I agree, white is better. But no, in this case, the pawns tend to overpower the piece. So the piece decided to trade, and we have this weird position where one knight will dominate the whole army from e5. Okay, the white knight is looking around for homes and places to stay, but he's pretty homeless at the moment. Okay, the white pieces tend to get paralyzed. They never really came out. The white rook is half decent. White knight can look for homes, can't find them. And the bishop can't do anything. He's just stuck there. Even if he comes out, he does nothing. Just gets hit by black rooks. Okay, probably earlier on, bishop h3 had to be played. He had to try and get this guy out. Now it's maybe too late, which means it's too late for the rooks to connect. Okay, black has complete domination with this diamond of doom and this knight of power. Okay, a completely dominating knight who will come to d3 when he feels like it. f2 is on the horizon. Yeah, it's really not easy for white to play. Okay, if you count the points, it's the same, but the position is very far from it. Okay, knight tries to block the rook, and I think the knight had to come to d4 here. I guess what Jan was scared of is the black rook invades, and this can be problematic. Okay, if you take the pawn now, I think black will make progress. Okay, maybe knight here going for the fork could be annoying. If the bishop moves away, then the second rank falls. And I think that's what he was scared of. That's what he wanted to avoid. That's why he played knight f4. But now Kevin just unleashes all the pawns, just throws the knight in the garbage can. Because after the knight goes into the garbage can on a6, doing absolutely nothing, we get to invade their position. First, we threaten to trap the knight in some cases. And when the knight goes away, we get the second ring that we came after. Okay, we finally invade his house. And look at this picture perfect position. If the bishop moves away, knight d3, second rank collapses. If the knight wants to have this pawn, I think we already saw something very similar with knight over here. And knight is invading. Back rank is very weak, by the way, and the pawns are still coming. Okay, so he didn't want to go for this. Oh, by the way, what am I saying? We can also take the free knight. So there is no way to destroy this diamond of doom. And if the bishop leaves, the second rank will fall. White is desperate here. White is running out of moves. He doesn't know what to do. And after g4, we just come for more pawns. Notice how black is not in a rush. Yeah, this is not a real sacrifice. We can play this slowly. We can enjoy this beast of power on e5. Okay, so at the end, after h3, the pawns just keep coming. and white is powerless with the piece to stop them. Okay. Bishop g2 doesn't work. Bishop e2, I can even take, play down, exchange with a million pawns. Yeah. Probably it would look something like boom, 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 so that the knight can come over here. All right. In the actual game, he tried to retreat, tried to stop these pawns. Again, we're not in a rush. They will run out of moves. So enjoy this position while they flounder away their pieces, while they try to find something. Just improve the position until they find some weakening move like a3 and doom themselves. The knight may have to go to a1 because if he goes to d4 like in the game, we have a cute little tactic. Rook d2. Take 3 seconds to figure out why can't the rook take? What's going on here? Why are we throwing away free rooks? 3, 2, 1. And good job if you found the back rank falling after rook takes d2 and rook e1 mate coming up. Okay, and that's how the game finished because the rook cannot hide forever. Okay, if the rook goes away, thank you for the free knight. Okay, and if you try to move the bishop, where to? You try to go here, thank you for the free knight. Okay, so that's where Jan had enough and resigned in 29 moves, or 30, let's say. All right. Why was black dominating here? Because white underestimated the power of pawns as space. It turns out that the space is more important than the piece. Okay, not even because the three pawns are scary, but because the piece activity. White can't get out the pieces to anywhere stable, so they're fragile. They can't do us any harm, and they always have to worry about tactics and forced kicks and going back home. All right. So hopefully you can use that in your games and use the power of the Diamond of Doom and play like Kevin. Thanks for watching and see you next time. Bye bye.